The first message I ever sent Liam Bennett was never meant for him. It was supposed to go to Liam Carter. One letter, one wrong contact, one mistake that quietly changed everything. At the time, I had no idea. I simply smiled at my phone while leaving Union Station, balancing an iced latte in one hand and my laptop bag in the other. Good luck with today's presentation. I know you're going to impress everyone. I pressed send, then stepped onto Massachusetts Avenue without thinking twice. 30 seconds later, my phone vibrated. Thank you, although I should probably admit, I have absolutely no idea who you are. I stopped walking. What? I opened the conversation. The contact still read, Liam. Same profile picture, same number. Or so I thought. I frowned. Maybe he had changed phones. Maybe he was joking. I typed back. Very funny. Another reply appeared almost instantly. I'm afraid I'm being serious. I don't believe we've met. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. I opened my contacts, then froze. There were now two names. Liam Carter, Liam Bennett. I had texted the wrong Liam. Oh no. People brushed past me as I stood completely still in the middle of the sidewalk. I covered my face. This can't be happening. I hurried to type, I'm so sorry. Wrong person. Several seconds passed. Then, that explains a lot. I blinked. A lot? I was wondering why someone believed in me this much before 9 a.m. Despite myself, I laughed. Most people would have ended the conversation there. I should have. Instead, I replied, well, whoever you are. Good luck with your presentation anyway. Another pause. Then, thank you. I'll do my best. That was it. No flirting, no dramatic beginning, just two strangers, accidentally wishing each other luck. Later that evening, Emily called me. Did Liam survive? What? The presentation. I looked at my phone. Which Liam? What do you mean, which Liam? My stomach dropped. I texted the wrong one. Silence. Then, you what? I mixed up the contacts. Emily burst into laughter. I told you to delete old numbers. I know. You actually started a conversation with a stranger? It was an accident. How long did you talk? 5 messages. She laughed even harder. I can't believe you. Neither could I. The next morning, I forgot all about it. Work was busy. My father's consulting firm had landed a meeting with a transportation contractor in downtown Washington, and everyone was rushing to finish the proposal. By lunchtime, my phone buzzed again. Unknown. Liam. Presentation went well. I stared at the screen. Why was he updating me? Before I could stop myself, I smiled. Congratulations. See? I told you. His reply came almost immediately. You did. You were the only person who said that yesterday. Something about that sentence stayed with me. The only person. I didn't know why, but it sounded lonely. For the next week, we exchanged exactly one message each day. Nothing personal. Nothing unusual. Monday. He sent a picture of the sunrise over the Potomac, worth getting up early for. Tuesday. I sent a picture of my coffee after the barista accidentally drew a smiley face in the foam. Today's greatest achievement. Wednesday. He admitted he'd never understood why people waited in line for food trucks. I spent 10 minutes explaining. Thursday. He finally tried one. You were right. The tacos were excellent. Friday. I asked, so, what exactly do you do? His answer surprised me. Mostly meetings. I laughed. That's not a real job description. It's the honest one. Weeks passed. The conversations became easier. He learned I loved bookstores. I learned he always worked too much. He discovered I couldn't keep houseplants alive. I discovered he had an oddly dry sense of humor. Somehow, talking to a complete stranger had become the easiest part of my day. One Saturday morning, I sent him a photo of the tiny basil plant sitting on my kitchen windowsill. Day 12. Still alive. He replied almost immediately. "I'm proud of both of you." I laughed out loud. People in the cafe looked over. I didn't care. Emily noticed first. "You smile every time your phone lights up." "I do not." "You absolutely do." She leaned across the table. "Who is he?" "Nobody. Nobody has a name." "Liam." She nearly dropped her coffee. "The wrong Liam?" I looked away. "Maybe." Emily stared at me, then slowly smiled. "I think this mistake is becoming a habit." I had no idea that in just a few days, I would finally meet him and discover that the man I'd accidentally been texting for nearly a month was one of the most influential people in Washington. Monday morning. My boss walked into the office carrying a stack of folders. "Conference room in 20 minutes. I looked up from my laptop. "Who are we meeting?" He checked the first page. Bennett Capital. The name sounded familiar. I couldn't remember why. Emily leaned over my desk. "They're enormous." "I know. They're practically everywhere in Washington." I nodded absent-mindedly, then reached for my phone. One unread message. "Good luck today." It was Liam. I smiled. "You too?" He replied almost instantly. "Big meeting?" "Very. Try not to be nervous. Easy for you to say." "Not really. I'm nervous too." I laughed quietly. Somehow that made me feel better. 20 minutes later, our team entered one of the tallest office buildings on K Street. Glass, marble, polished steel. Everything looked expensive. The receptionist smiled politely. "Good morning." "Professor Consulting?" "Yes. They're expecting you." She handed us visitor badges. As we waited for the elevator, I noticed an entire wall covered with framed magazine covers. Washington Business Review. Top CEO under 40. Most influential leaders. The same face appeared on nearly every cover. Dark hair, calm expression, perfect suit, confident smile. The name underneath stopped me cold. Liam Bennett. My heart skipped. No, it couldn't be. There had to be thousands of Liam Bennetts. Right? The elevator doors opened. 42nd floor. The conference room overlooked almost the entire city. The Capitol shimmered in the distance. Everyone on our team quietly took their seats. I tried focusing on my notes. Instead, my phone vibrated. "Hope your meeting goes well." Liam. Again. I smiled without thinking. Then the conference room door opened. Every person stood. A man walked inside. Dark navy suit. Silver watch. The exact same calm smile I'd seen downstairs. The same face from every magazine cover. Liam Bennett. He stopped walking. Our eyes met. For one long second, neither of us moved. Recognition appeared on his face almost immediately. Then very slowly, he smiled. Not the professional smile. A different one. Small, almost amused. My stomach dropped. No, 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 please no. He greeted everyone professionally, shook hands, introduced himself. When he reached me, he paused for the briefest moment. "You must be Ava." My brain completely stopped working. "You know my name?" His smile widened just slightly. "I've seen it on several coffee photos." I stared at him. Emily had been right. I had been texting the CEO. The meeting began, or at least everyone else thought it had. I couldn't focus on a single presentation slide. Every few minutes, I accidentally looked toward Liam. Every single time, he was already looking back. Not in a creepy way, just curious, like he was trying not to laugh. Halfway through the presentation, our project manager asked, "Mr. Bennett, any questions?" He glanced toward the proposal. "I have one." Everyone became completely silent. He looked directly at me. "Has the basil survived?" The room froze. I nearly dropped my pen. "What?" One of the directors frowned. "Basil?" Liam answered calmly. I was simply following up. Emily kicked my foot under the table. Hard. I somehow managed to answer. "Yes. It's still alive." He nodded once. "Excellent." Then, without another word, he returned to discussing transportation budgets, as though nothing unusual had happened. The meeting continued. Everyone else forgot about the question. I definitely didn't. The moment the presentation ended, I rushed toward the elevator. I just needed to escape, maybe disappear forever. Ava. His voice echoed through the hallway. I closed my eyes, then turned around. Liam stood a few steps away. No executives, no assistants, just him. I owe you an apology. You do? I probably should have mentioned who I was. I blinked. You never lied. No, I just left out a detail. A very large detail. A reasonably large detail. I laughed despite myself. You own this building. I do. I think that's a fairly large detail. He smiled. Fair point. Silence settled between us. Finally, I asked, so, you knew? About. That I had the wrong Liam. After the second message. And you kept answering? I enjoyed talking to you. I looked at the floor. I've been sending coffee photos to one of Washington's biggest CEOs. You have. I complained about my dying basil. You did. I sent you a picture of my burned pancakes. They looked beyond saving. I covered my face. I can't believe this. He laughed softly. It was the first genuine laugh I'd heard from him. You know, I almost corrected you on the first day. What stopped you? He looked at me for a second, then answered honestly. You sounded happy, and I didn't want to ruin that. For reasons I couldn't explain, my heart skipped again. I had come to this meeting expecting to negotiate a business contract. Instead, I had accidentally walked into the first chapter of something neither of us had ever planned. I spent the entire drive home replaying every conversation we'd ever had. Every joke, every coffee photo, every voice message, every single embarrassing moment. Emily sat beside me with her arms folded. So, I stared out the window. So, you've accidentally been texting one of the most influential CEOs in Washington for a month. Apparently. And he asked about your basil during a business meeting. Yes. She took a deep breath. I don't even know where to begin. Neither do I. That evening, my phone remained completely silent. I checked it far more times than I wanted to admit. Nothing. By 10 o'clock, I convinced myself that was the end of it. He had been polite. The meeting was over. Real life had caught up with our strange little accident. Then, my phone buzzed. Did I embarrass you today? I looked at the screen for several seconds. Finally, I typed. Only enough to make me consider moving to another state. 3 dots appeared. Then, only another state? I expected another country. I couldn't help laughing. Canada was briefly under consideration. His reply came almost instantly. I'm relieved you stayed. For a long moment, I simply looked at those words. Then I replied, Can I ask you something? Of course. Why didn't you tell me who you really were? Several seconds passed, longer than usual. Finally, because after the first day, you stopped talking to my job. You just talked to me. I read the message twice, then a third time. Most people who met Liam Bennett probably saw headlines. Magazine covers, money, influence. I had spent a month arguing with him about bookstores and whether pineapple belonged on pizza, without realizing who he was. Somehow, that made me smile. The following week, our conversations continued. Almost nothing changed, except now I knew. Whenever he mentioned another long meeting, I imagined the enormous conference room. Whenever he said he had been traveling, I knew it wasn't a simple business trip, and every morning, without fail, one message appeared. Good morning, some mornings, I answered with coffee. Other mornings, with a terrible joke. One Tuesday, I sent him a picture of the Washington Monument disappearing into thick morning fog. Looks like someone forgot to load the city today. His reply came a minute later. I'm looking at the exact same fog from my office. I still think your view is better. Friday afternoon? Emily walked into my office carrying 2 coffees. She sat down across from me. You like him? What? You heard me. We're friends. You smile every time he texts. That's because he's funny. He sends you pictures of sunrises. So nobody sends sunrise pictures unless they care. I looked away. We've never even had dinner. Emily raised an eyebrow. Has he asked? No. Would you say yes? I didn't answer, which was answer enough. That evening, Liam surprised me. Question. Go ahead. Have you ever been to the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum after closing? I frowned. Is that even possible? Sometimes. Why? A pause. Then, one of the museum trustees owes me a favor. I stared at my phone. Only Liam would write a sentence like that as if it were completely normal. Are you inviting me? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared? Returned. Finally? Yes. No meetings. No business. Just 2 people walking through a museum. I smiled before I even realized it. That sounds surprisingly perfect. His reply came almost immediately. Saturday, 7 o'clock. Saturday arrived much faster than I expected. For almost an hour, I stood in front of my closet. Nothing looked right. Too formal, too casual, too obvious, too plain. The floating thoughts in my head refused to cooperate. Emily called. You're still getting ready? Maybe. You've been maybe for 45 minutes. I don't know what to wear. It's a museum. It's Liam. Exactly. She laughed. Wear whatever makes you forget he's a CEO. I'm not sure that's possible anymore. It is. How? Remember. He's still the man who celebrated when your basil survived 2 weeks. I smiled. She was right. Before he was Washington's most powerful executive, he had simply been Liam, the man who somehow made ordinary conversations feel like the best part of every day. And in less than 2 hours, for the first time, we wouldn't be talking through a screen. Saturday evening. I arrived 10 minutes early. Not because I planned to, because sitting at home pretending not to be nervous had become impossible. The museum entrance was almost empty. The last visitors were leaving. The sky above Washington had turned shades of orange and deep blue. I checked my phone. 7:01. Then I heard footsteps. Ava. I turned around. Liam wasn't wearing a tailored business suit. No tie, no polished dress shoes, just dark jeans, a charcoal jacket, and a simple white shirt. For a second, he looked less like the CEO everyone recognized and more like the man I'd been texting every morning. You came, he smiled. You sound surprised. I wasn't sure you'd still want to. After discovering who I am? I nodded. He looked at me for a moment. I hoped you were coming to see Liam? Not Bennett. I smiled. I think I am. A museum employee unlocked the doors. Good evening, Mr. Bennett. Liam nodded politely. Thank you, Mark. The man smiled. You've got the place until 9. Take your time. As the doors closed behind us, the entire museum fell silent. No crowds, no children running between exhibits. Only soft lights reflecting off historic aircraft and spacecraft. This is unbelievable. Liam looked around. It feels different when nobody's here. It feels like the building belongs to us. For 2 hours, I suppose it does. We wandered through the aviation gallery, stopping wherever something caught our attention. At the Wright Flyer, I asked, do you actually enjoy museums? I do. I would have guessed golf. He looked genuinely confused. Why would I voluntarily play golf? I laughed. I don't know. Because CEOs are legally required to? I've heard the rumor. I've also heard they enjoy networking. I enjoy coffee. That's considerably less boring. He smiled. I agree. We eventually reached the Apollo exhibit. The enormous spacecraft hung quietly above us. I stared upward. I always wanted to be an astronaut. He looked at me. Really? When I was 8. What changed? I discovered math. He laughed. A reasonable decision. What about you? He looked toward the command module. I wanted to become an architect. I blinked. You? I liked designing buildings. What happened? My father convinced me the family business needed me. And did it? Probably. He smiled faintly. But sometimes I still imagine different buildings. For a brief moment, he didn't sound like a businessman. He sounded like someone wondering what another life might have looked like. We continued walking, eventually arriving beneath the Space Shuttle Discovery. I looked up. It's enormous. So is the responsibility of cleaning it. I laughed. You always find practical things to think about. I spend too much time solving problems. What do you think about when you're not working? He answered immediately. You. I stopped walking. What? He looked slightly surprised by his own honesty. I mean, recently. Silence. Then he rubbed the back of his neck. I'm not particularly good at this. At what? This. He gestured vaguely between us. I negotiate billion-dollar agreements. But somehow, telling one woman I enjoy talking to her is significantly more difficult. I couldn't stop smiling. You're doing better than you think. A little later, we found a small bench overlooking the aviation hall. Neither of us said anything. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It never seemed to be. Finally, I looked at him. Can I tell you something embarrassing? You've already shown me burned pancakes. Fair. I laughed. When I realized who you were, I spent an hour reading articles about you. Oh? There weren't many? I know. You never give interviews. They're exhausting. You've been called... I tried remembering the headline. The most private executive in Washington. I've seen that. Is it true? He thought for a second. I don't hide. I just don't perform. The sentence stayed with me. Most people spent their lives trying to look interesting. Liam simply wanted to be genuine. As we stood to leave, my phone buzzed. Emily? Are you alive? Without thinking, I showed Liam the message. He laughed quietly. She seems concerned. She thinks I'm on a date with someone impossible. And are you? I looked directly at him. I don't think so. For the first time all evening, he looked almost relieved. Outside, the night air was cool. The Capitol dome glowed in the distance. Neither of us seemed eager to say goodbye. So, I said, this was nice. It was. We should probably do it again. I was hoping you'd say that. I smiled. So, what now? Instead of answering, he reached into his jacket pocket. I actually brought something. What is it? He handed me a tiny paper bag. Inside was a small ceramic airplane. I laughed immediately. You remembered. A month ago, you told me you collected ridiculous souvenirs. I can't believe you remembered that. I remember most things you tell me. I carefully held the tiny airplane in my hands. It might be the strangest gift I've ever received. I thought you'd like it. I love it. Then, without thinking, I hugged him. It lasted only a second. When I stepped back, Liam looked genuinely surprised. I wasn't expecting that. I smiled. Good. For once, it was nice to surprise him instead. As we walked toward our cars, neither of us noticed that someone across the street had quietly lifted a phone and taken our picture.